Welcome forward to day 16 of our reflections on St. Joseph. And the theme for today, and it's the start of a number of themes on virtues, is Joseph the Just. So if you recall, we asked the questions previously, what is a virtue? And we, I suppose, talked about the fact that it's the medium of two extremes, and we gave courage as an example. And today we're going to be looking at justice and why is Joseph called just? Why is he a just man? And it actually does refer to in the Gospels when he had to make the decision when he found out that Mary was with child. Does he leave Mary or does he take her into his home? In fact, in those days he could well have stoned her to death. So we'll talk about that towards the end. So again, what is justice? Give that some thought. Do you really know what it means? And are you just? And what does that mean? And do you actually use that virtue in making just decisions? So at any time through the video, you just pause and stop and reflect on those things. So just briefly, so we can get into this, is that justice is defined theologically, in brief, when you give God and your neighbour their dues. So I want you to think about that, and we're going to move on and revisit. But now I'm going to show you some diagrams that help me understand or visualize abstract ideas in terms of the virtues and see how they link. Hopefully this diagram will help you understand the virtues and how they link in with Joseph's decisions and why we call him just. So just briefly at the top there you can see a continuum going from the left and the right, and clearly one can move up and down that continuum. So let's have a scenario of belief in Jesus. And so again, looking at the virtues, the golden medium, so what are the two extremes? So the extremes of believing in Jesus, you could have rejection at one end and ignoring at the other end, and in the middle you've got accepting. So like that. Now forget the shape of that diagram, I'll explain that another time. So it's just showing you that the virtue of belief in Jesus is about accepting him, as opposed to rejecting Jesus, which is quite violent, or just ignoring him. And I've put the word love there because that's, if you're accepting Jesus, we love Jesus. Now in terms of courage, we have talked about this. Again, you've got the extreme of cowardice on one side and thoughtlessness or indifference on the other, and actually courage is the golden medium between those two. Now in terms of Joseph being just, there's again three theories on why Joseph did take Mary into his house, and these three theories are labelled under the suspicion theory, the stupefaction theory, and the reverence theory. And if you take the suspicion theory, actually in those days, if he'd been suspicious of Mary, of adultery for example, actually the way to get out of that would have been to stone her. And actually one could argue you can see almost a link with rejection and cowardice there. The other extreme, again, you could link in with being thoughtless or indifferent or ignoring Mary, is the stupefaction theory, where he was just stupefied, and again it's a sort of inactivity, if you like. Now in the middle though, you've got the golden medium, which is called the reverence theory, and that is where Joseph showed he was a just man by showing God his dues and Mary his dues, and that's how it's linked in. Now you can use this model to explore your own decision making and lots of different scenarios, particularly decisions around morality and spirituality. So, for example, if you take being pregnant and taking the theme of abortion, you can use this model. Do you reject the baby, or do you ignore the baby? And both of those could result in an abortion. Or do you accept the baby, the gift from God and love? And again, that is about justice and courage. And therefore you can start to see how this model can be used to explore the virtues. Again, a lot to think about. And until tomorrow, God bless.